Hello, today I'm here to teach you class number 3 for our class on curriculum and development. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and here we go. All right, so we're going to start talking about how we're going to get organized. So I would like you please to always have something to take notes with, all right? So have a notepad, a pen, pencils, highlighters, and make sure that you also have with you your book, our main book, the DAP, the Developmentally Appropriate Practice book. We're going to be talking about chapter 2 and chapter 3. It is very important that you do read those chapters in full, so that what I'm gonna go over today is just a review for you. Not only the only way that you're going to remember the information, so make sure that you highlight the main parts, take notes, and just really take advantage of this learning opportunity, all right? So it's also a good time for you to grab some water, coffee, and be ready to learn. Okay, at any point, just stop the video recording and take some notes, take a break, do what you need to do, all right? All right, so we're gonna start with chapter 2, and chapter 2 is on understanding play, the importance in developmentally appropriate practice. So who doesn't like to play? Right? I think even as adults, we have that tendency to like to find ways to engage in fun activities. So that starts, when we're little, and as adults, we still find ways to get entertained. So ways that we get entertained, for example, we can go, bowling, we can go, to the movies, we find, extracurricular activities that are not part of our everyday routine, So everybody has different ways that they, entertain themselves. Some people like to play video games and so on and so forth. So for kids, it's also exciting to explore that. So chapter 2 talks a little bit about how children play and why it's important. So what is play and why it's important to allow students to play? So play is intrinsically motivated and spontaneous. So you're born with that ability and that excitement, the motivation to play. So that's part of being human, I guess. Active play engages children, and you want students engaged so that they can learn. So every time that you're doing an activity with your students, they should feel like they're having fun and that they're playing. So just, try to organize your curriculum around fun, ways to do that learning, all right? The goals of play are flexible and are self-imposed and may change. So when you're playing, it's kind of like you don't really have, a goal in mind. They're kind of flexible, but maybe you can have something there that you can tweak as a teacher. You can kind of, try to tailor that to the students, but they're flexible. The goals are flexible. So you can be playing in one way, and then, the rules of the game can change and you can go do something else. So kids change the way they play all the time, and it's okay, right? And play is process oriented. So in and on itself. So it's not about the product. Like, what am I gonna get at the end? So sometimes you're playing a game, let's say you're building a tower. Sometimes older kids, they wanna really build the tower. But for little kids, they just wanna play with the blocks. They might build a tower, but they're not really focused on just building the tower. It's that process of playing, of building that tower, or just being with the blocks. So it's just the process that is the fun of it. So just kind of remember that, all right? Now we're gonna watch a quick video. It's about the importance of play, and it really talks about, different ways you can go about it. So we're gonna watch it together, and it's about 5 minutes long. If you need to pause this video, you can also go ahead and do that, but it's a really great video, so stay tuned.
Play is an activity that young children do every day, and we all know that it's important. But did you know that research shows that play is actually central to young children's learning? What can you do to help children get the most learning from their play? When you look at play, when you watch children play, it's pretty obvious that it's a really enjoyable, fun activity for children. Probably is what makes childhood so enjoyable. What is not as obvious, maybe, is how important play is for children's development. Research has found that play helps children to think creatively. They learn all kinds of different problem-solving strategies when they play. Play has been linked to language development, and certainly it leads to positive social skills. One of the more important things that research shows is that play is related to reading and learning to write. One way that play helps children in literacy areas is that it's very symbolic. For example, when they're using a toy telephone to represent a real phone, they're using a symbol. That's not unlike looking at a word and seeing that it represents something that's not present or something in real life. One element of play that I think is important to observe in children is pretend or make-believe. One thing you want to watch for as you're watching children play is, do they engage in make-believe? Do they take on the roles of pretend characters or other people in their lives? Do they use objects in make-believe ways? Do they invent imaginative play situations to play out with their peers? There are a variety of ways that adults can kind of enhance this kind of pretend. One really enjoyable way to do this is simply to play along with children, to actually take a make-believe role, play parallel or with children to make play suggestions, to ask questions, to kind of encourage this kind of role play.
I know how much it's going to cost to get my car fixed, Jane.
A second element that I think is important for adults to look at when they're observing children's play is social interaction. And related to that, verbalization, using language as you're interacting with your peers.
I need another long one. There is no more long one.
You want to see a lot of language in this kind of play setting.
Maybe we can do this. Yeah. This is a long one.
Take a role, try to facilitate more language by asking questions, trying to facilitate some peer interaction. Third element of play that I think is important for adults to look for is what's sometimes been called play complexity. As children get a little bit older into the preschool years, what you like to see is a greater variety of enactments as they're carrying out a role. If children aren't playing that kind of complex play, if they're still quite simple and repetitive in their make-believe or in other kinds of play that they engage in, it might be time for an adult to move in and facilitate. Again, through question asking, maybe suggesting some new enactments to perform will help the play to become more complex. One thing I'd like to be sure to caution about is that playing with children is great fun, and so all of these strategies to facilitate play will be very enjoyable for the adult as well as the child. The thing we have to be careful about, though, is not to stay too long, to overstay our welcome, but to be sure that after a period of enriching children's play, we get out of the play center to allow them to play on their own. We need to be very respectful of children's play activities. When you enhance children's play in these ways, when you facilitate their pretend play, the complexity of their play, social interaction, not only are you enhancing their play, but this leads directly to overall advancement in children's development. Play is a wonderful tool for parents and teachers to use, a wonderful vehicle for promoting larger areas of development.
52.
All right, so I like the reflections portion right there. So one, facilitate make-believe play with children. So the chapter talks about, right at the end, it talks about how you as a teacher, what your role is in play. So it talks about like facilitating that, that playtime, maybe 5 minutes, you know, you're going to be engaging with the children. You're going to be the starter of that play, or you're going to engage with each and every child, you know, separately at a time. Let me find the page right here. So if you go to chapter 2 of your book, it's right at, let's see, page, it's on page 57. There's this picture right here of the teacher playing with the students. This is page 56, and then on page 57 is where you can read more about that. Choose a role and maintain pretend behavior consistent with the role. Expand pretend play into episodes rather than simply imitating brief actions. Play at least with one other child. Communicate verbally to coordinate and direct the action. So as the adult in the room, you're going to facilitate that learning for your students. So it's really important that you're going to be that model for language, right? Plan in advance of playing. Take on actions and language of a particular role. Use props. Play for long stretches, extend time frame, and use language to develop scenarios and speak in role. Use scenarios indicating interactions between roles. It's so great, and it just keeps, it explains, and it's gonna show you how to do it, how to ask questions, and how to actually prompt students. So I would really recommend that you go over this part of the chapter. The whole chapter is excellent, but this part is really great. So just go ahead and do that. And page 60 talks about how do teachers support play. So just go ahead and then just read a little bit more about that. It's really short, so it's excellent for you to spend a minute or two learning more. And second thing it says, for the reflection on this video, says enhance social interactions in play, help children perform more complex pretend enactments because of the language, so you're gonna help them get that accomplished. And 4, enrich play, then let children play on their own. So you're going to facilitate that, and then you're gonna let them be their own, you know, they're gonna have their own show, their own moment. All right, I'm gonna go back to our PowerPoint and make sure that you can see my screen. All right, really great video, as I said. Now, just going over really quick, the categories of play. We have, here we have functional, the functional play. We have symbolic. We also have games with rules. Functional, we have sensory motor or practice play. For example, would be beads, puzzles, skating, climbing. We also have symbolic, constructive or dramatic play, blocks, Legos, and clay. And we also have games with rules, for example, checkers, kickball, and soccer. All right. All right, so we also have the social stages of play. We have 3 main types. We have the onlooker play, right? So the kid that is always watching others. There's also a way for you to kind of think about this. It's a kid that is also learning to play. So usually those are younger learners, like a toddler that is kind of watching to see how, you know, the older kids or other kids are playing. And just, it's somebody that is just watching, just either learning or just kind of is an inexperienced child, sometimes it's cool to just watch and see what others are doing, and maybe it's a way for them to see how to, they can fit in with that group, how to socialize. They're trying to figure out how to do that. Not only like the rules of the game, but also how to interact with one another. They're watching for cues, for, social cues. So it's a way to think about that. Now we also have solitary play for the inexperienced players, or very complex pretend play. So somebody might be playing alone because they either don't know how to play, or their game is too complex that nobody else can follow. Have you thought about that? Yeah. Parallel play is the next one, is when kids share materials or play near each other without interacting. They are playing together, but not quite together. They're parallel playing. Kind of cool if you think about that. All right, so we have next associative group play. We have sporadically interaction in similar activity with loose interaction. So they are playing together, but they're not really associated with each other. They're kind of there. They're playing similar activities, but they're not really playing together. They're kind of there in the same environment. But cooperative play, the children act and communicate to maintain play that is focused on a common goal or play theme. So they have the same goal or the same game, the same theme, and they're communicating and acting. So they're they're doing the cooperative kind of play, which is the opposite of associative group play, right? Because they're there, but they're not very associated. So I would say they are the opposite. But they're all fun ways, to play. It just depends on why they're playing that way, what kind of game, what intentions they have, what kind of materials they have. Sometimes it's cool to play on your own. Sometimes it's cool to play with a group. You never know what they need that day. So now let's think about play as developmentally appropriate curriculum. So we have here the first bullet we have provides for all areas of the child's development. So when you are creating curriculum, you're going to try to create opportunities for like content learning, language learning, and all the skills for learning, right? Like the body, the mind, they're like musically developing, and they're doing all that, but you're gonna do that through play. So it's gonna provide them to develop all areas of their development through play. That's excellent. Second bullet, emphasizes learning as active, interactive process. So it's active, interactive. That's what it should be, right? It presents highly motivated opportunities for learning. It's excellent. Allows for differences, right? Differences makes me think of the word differentiation, which allows us for accommodations. Kids that need different things, different, ways of learning the same content. Accommodations, differentiation. Some kids might need something special, right? We all have a special student. Allows for practice and repetition of newly acquired skills, competencies, and ideas. So if it's something new, they can play, and then they're practicing that over and over again, and next thing you know, they know the content. The next thing is promote self-regulation, right? We all know how important it is to develop social emotional learning and know how to feel, how to develop that self-regulation and feel, connected to other people in the room and feel confident. So that promotes self-regulation. They're playing, they feel great. Then it also contributes to their brain development, right? Promotes acquisition of foundational skills, lays the cornerstone for social and moral development, and supports children's emotional development that I just talked about when I talked about self-regulation. So those two bullets kind of come together, right? For example, look how cool this image right here that Miss Macias put together for this PowerPoint is excellent. It's like a Venn diagram, right? The kid is comparing, contrasting And it's actually a visual way of making sure like which one is a good pet. I think it was a bad pet, probably something like that, and what they had in common in the middle. So it's cool. So that you're classifying, you're learning those concepts, but you're playing with, you know, the manipulatives. In this case, you had the stuffed animals. Excellent example, right? I love it. You don't even know they're learning. Now, all the content of chapter 2 kind of goes together with chapter 3, right? Very well, because then that rolls over to chapter 3 when we're talking about planning for developing the appropriate, you know, curriculum. So how do we do that? So we talked last class about what is curriculum. So I said, curriculum is not a box of books, remember? So today, I'm going to talk about what our book says about what curriculum is, right? So if you go to chapter 3, go to page, let's see, page 69. You will see our learning objectives right there. So this is our chapter 3. You should also read chapter 3. Please do so. Highlight everything. Put sticky notes there. Take some notes, all right? The book says that curriculum is the following. So desired goals are identified and clearly articulated. So we should be planning curriculum based on goals. So first question is, what are my students going to learn by the end of my unit? So when I say unit, when you're planning week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, you're not to plan different content, different like themes, or different, like 1 week you plan about, oh, my pet, the next week you're planning about maybe, let's say, the weather. You're not going to talk about completely different themes or topics. You're going to have a connection. You're going to have a big overarching theme for your unit. For example, seasons, or for example, life cycles, for example, pets, or animals around the world, or you can say celebrations around the world, or culture, or, you know, celebrations around the world. Or you can just come up with a big overarching theme, or it could be a skill of sorts, right? And you're going to go with that so that you can, you know, teach your students. So by the end of the 4 weeks, or that period of time, your students will know those goals. Those are the goals, and this is what they will know. So desired goals are identified and clearly articulated. Okay, why is that important? Because you're gonna show the parents what they have accomplished, and you will know as a teacher that you've taught those skills. All right, you're just not going to school just to go to school. Okay, think about that. Second thing, program has comprehensive curriculum targeting identified goals. So your home, you know, center, if you have an in-home daycare, or if you work for an early learning center, or if you work in an elementary school, you need to have a program that you're using. You can be the one creating that program. And you, of course, you're basing that off of standards for the state, right? So you need to have those goals identified. And those documents are to be found on Canvas. I uploaded them to Canvas. They should be all there. You can find also all those documents if you just Google Washington State Early Learning Standards or Washington State Elementary School Standards. You will find the Common Core standards. Or language standards for the ELP standards. So you will find those standards. You can type in really any state, and it will give you the standards. I really love the Florida State standards for the early learning because it gives us a comprehensive view of all the skills for students from arts to language. I really enjoy it. I really like it. I feel like Washington still needs to work a little more on more specific goals, but those are different states. But overall, they kind of assess the same thing. So just kind of a thought there. So you can create something really great for your learners, even if you just do an in-home daycare. An in-home daycare can be very great. So create activities that are awesome for your students with goals, right? The third one, teachers use curriculum framework in planning to achieve curriculum goals and achieve classroom coherence. Framework, so a framework would be like the way that you see your teaching, right? Like you're using a template, a way of thinking, like I said before, backwards planning. What do they have to learn at the end so that you're teaching throughout to get to that end, right? Teachers make meaningful connections between new learning and what is already known. So you're building that background knowledge. Students come with a lot of knowledge already, right? Because, for example, I know that you already know so much about teaching. So I love that when you're creating your lesson plans that you build on something that you've done before in your class, in the classroom with your students, or at home if you have an in-home daycare, and bring that to life and build on that knowledge. I love that. All right. Teachers collaborate with others. Oh, that's my favorite. Teachers collaborate with others. You should never do that work alone. In preceding and subsequent levels to increase continuity and coherence, work with people to create something unique and awesome. Does it take time? Yes, but you can find time. If you know somebody that teaches the same age group as you, even if you don't work in the same school and you have similar ways of working like with kids, work together and make something awesome. Collaboration is the key. And in the care of infants and toddlers, practitioners plan curriculum, right? We all know that there's nothing out there much for us to use, nothing ready, except for like, for example, there is the high scope approach that we're gonna learn next. And we also have like the creative curriculum. Those are things that are packaged out there for us to buy and use, but aside from that, there's not a lot out there for us to purchase, and it costs so much money. So practitioners, meaning you in the classroom or at home, if you're teaching toddlers and infants, you're the one creating that. So get together and create something unique. So curriculum is that. Okay? Goals, goal-oriented learning. And what is effective curriculum? So children are active and engaged in all domains. Curriculum goals are clearly defined and shared by all stakeholders. So parents, the teacher, and the student. The student should know what they're learning too. What are we learning today? We're learning about life cycles. They should know, right? Curriculum is based on evidence. So what are they learning? How do they know they learned? How do the parents know the kids learned? Well, put a portfolio together, put a little binder together, a little folder, something. Gather information on that student. That's the least you can do for them. Then important content is learned through investigation. When I hear the word investigation, it makes me think of hands-on, investigating. It makes me think of like what's it called? Oh my gosh, forgot the word. I totally forgot. When you're a scientist and you have when you're looking, I totally forgot that word. I'll remember in a second. When you know that word, please email me because I will not remember until the end of this video. I promise you, I forgot. You know what I'm saying. Investigating means that they are going to have hands-on experiences and they're going to explore. I love that word, explore. And they're going to learn through exploration. I love it. And play. and focused on intentional teaching. This is what the green right here is talking about. Then the red, curriculum builds through prior learning and experiences. So effective curriculum. You don't want to just do curriculum just because. But as you're writing your weekly plans, your 4 weeks that you're going to do, think about that. Are children active and engaged in all domains? Domains, when I say domains, I mean math, literacy, music and movement, you know, all the domains. Do we have goals? Does everybody know? Are we communicating with parents? Do you remember to add something for the parents? Do we have evidence? Are you collecting things for the portfolio? Are they investigating, exploring, playing? Is the teaching intentional? Are the books exciting? Are you building ground knowledge? If the answer is yes, 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 if I got 4 yeses, you're awesome. Now, integrated curriculum allows students to learn activities in large time blocks. Is when you're going to integrate. You can combine things. You can do a sensory activity as you're teaching literacy. For example, you can do, they're practicing learning how to spell their name, but they can be doing that with Play-Doh. So you're combining sensory with writing. Does that make sense? You're integrating, right? Or you're doing science. They're learning about life cycles, and you're integrating language and literacy by doing reading of a book, and you're talking about the author, and you're talking about the cover of the book, right? The next one, provides coherence for children's experience and permits optimal construction of learning. Integrated curriculum also provides involvement in project results and internal motivation to learn. Are they excited? The pink at the bottom leads to deepening interest and exploration of related ideas. Are the kids making connections to other areas? Do they want to explore more? And then the brown allows students to apply knowledge in relevant ways. And I remember the word that I wanted to say right here. It was the magnifying glass. That would drive me crazy if I couldn't remember that word. I don't know why I didn't remember that. So much going on, thinking in my head, right? Recording this video. All right. Now, we're almost wrapping up here in a bit. The cycle of planning. How does curriculum, and if you're tired, pause the video, go take a break, go to the restroom, grab some water. I have my water right here with me. The cycle of planning and assessing. Like, you're going to teach your kids the amazing, you know, lesson that you're going to teach every day. We have an amazing, you know, day planned for them. How do you connect the goals of their learning and the actual teaching, and how do you know if they're learning? So you have to have a cycle of planning and a cycle of assessing. So you have to have a systematic way. Systematic means you have to have a system, right? How do you take notes? How do you observe? So in my classroom, I always had clipboards, and I would take notes of what kids were doing. I always used sticky notes for, you know, specific students. I would write their names, and I would just write things that I could observe, because that helped me write their portfolio observations, their report cards, because I had to have data on them to share with their parents, right? Since mid-2019, we are supposed to be, you know, reporting to parents at least twice a year. That's part of the new WAC. We need to be reporting to parents more and more. We need to be making that connection with you know, the families. So how are we going to tell them what the kids are learning? So we need to be thinking about that. It can be very informal. It doesn't have to be like this big deal. Talking to parents, they come every day and they drop the kids off, and they pick the kids up can be something so cool. Maybe, you know, you're gonna create posters. The kids can create a little trifold. You can create one for them with them, and they can display their work. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think it would, in my opinion. I think it would be great. And so you can build that daily until it's done, right? One piece at a time. But it takes a lot of observation, a lot of planning. So you got to think, okay, what do I want to show the parents? How am I going to show them? Can the kids be the ones explaining to the parents what they did so they feel excited? Maybe can I give them a teacher pointer so they can do their own, you know, student-led conference. They can teach the parents what they learned. So that's so empowering. That's beautiful. It's not on the teacher, it's on the student. It's so fun. So you need to be taking notes so you can have concrete evidence to share with the parents. And then the assessment, what are you assessing them on? So that goes with those goals that we've been getting from the Florida website and from those documents that I posted on Canvas, that your instructor posted on Canvas for you, like right in the beginning of Canvas, all the way on top, right? And then the cycle of planning also comes with planning strategies to move children forward. So here, if you look at this assessment cycle, you plan your instruction in yellow, you implement, meaning the blue, you teach, you assess. Sometimes it comes all together, it's one process. And then you report, meaning you tell the parents, and then you revise, you change. Okay, maybe the kid didn't learn, maybe I need to do something different, maybe I need to teach it again. And you plan again, you teach again, you assess, and then that cycle goes on and on and on and on. And then it's what you have to do, right? So number one, regular observation to learn about individual children or the whole group is important. Two, assessment of where each child is in relation to predetermined goals and objectives. Three, learning about children's interests, experience, and questions is something you gotta do. You have to know what they know and what they like so that you can tailor the learning to their needs, right? To what they are, you know, interested in and what they're good at. Build on strength. So funds of knowledge, that's a huge thing. What do they know? What are they good at? What do they come with? And then four, deciding strategies, materials, and experiences to move children toward goals and objectives. Our book talks about that over and over and over again. What are the materials? What are the strategies that they're going to have to know to move them forward? And five, evaluate effectiveness of your plans and add new ideas. And then guess what? You go back to step one, observe, assess, and then you go over and over and over again. And that's teaching. Every day you start again and again and again and again, right? That's why your unit plan cannot be 1 week long. It has to be 4 weeks or sometimes more. You need to spend some time observing the kids. You can't just move on to a different topic and goals and know if the kids learned. It makes no sense. Kids don't just get interested in learning about bananas and next week they're learning about, you know, I don't know, furniture. Does that make sense? When they get excited about something and they're starting to deepen their understanding about something specific, you let them get excited about it. You help them. You help them get there. So you're not going to just be like throwing new stuff at them. You deepen their understanding on that topic and those goals, and you really go deep with that. Dive in. All right, so that's why I am suggesting that your units are at least 4 weeks long for the most part. 3-4 weeks long. Don't do something too quick. Kids, they won't remember. They need more practice. And you need more time to also learn what they know so that you can report to parents and prep parents and engage with them. Let them have time at home too to develop. Give them suggestions of books that they can read at home or read aloud links that they can watch on YouTube and things like that. All right, it's very important. Now, I'm basically what I'm teaching you, what we are teaching you in this class is we're theme planning. You're thinking of a theme and goals, right? That you're teaching students. So you're teaching them the themes, but it's more based on goals and standards as well, right? We're doing both. But if you're just gonna teach them a theme, let's say you're gonna teach them about birds and that's all you're doing, then it's not that cool because you don't know if they're learning the goals. But what we're doing is a little bit more advanced. So feel good about that. So if we were just teaching them a theme, you would have advantages and disadvantages. For example, you would allow the students to make meaningful connections with the theme. You would offer them a variety of means of exploring a concept via different methods and media, allows for integrated learning experiences, allows students to immerse themselves in topics that deeply interest them, and provides a method to support teacher organization and thinking. So if you're theme planning, that's what you're doing. Those are the good things about that. But remember, we're doing theme planning plus it's standards-based, it's skill-based. So we're doing a little more than that. So you're doing all that. You're allowing them to make connections, explore methods of learning, giving them integrated learning experiences. You're integrating content. You're doing a beautiful job. Good job, by the way. Great lesson plans. Disadvantages of that. You would just narrow their focus on something specific that maybe you decided that would be a good idea, right? Works from a defined time frame for each unit. Maybe you're just deciding, oh yeah, it's gonna be 4 weeks. Maybe you should teach it for 8. That's kind of bad that you decided it was 4. Maybe you should have taught that all year. Who knows? Depending on their interest, right? But sometimes you gotta define it, right? Creates an urgency to stay on schedule. Sometimes schedule drives us nuts, right? Some days I'm just like, oh my gosh, the schedule again. We're always on schedule. Wake up in the morning, afternoon, do this, do that, right? It's stressful. But schedules help students know what they're supposed to do. So there's good and bad in that. Excludes other interests. So maybe they don't want to read about birds. Maybe they want to read about something else, right? And then traps the teacher into recycling themes. You're gonna have to like think about the same theme over and over again and like trying to make it better every time. That can be hard, but maybe you're really good at it. And then plans and then ignores the plan, right? Now, there's what we call emergent curriculum. I'm gonna do this movement, emergent curriculum. It emerges from the kids, or what we call the project approach. Where do ideas from emergent curriculum come from, right? That's a good question. Children's play, comments, and questions. So some teachers don't plan like that. They don't get a template and they plan their lesson for the week. No, boom, forget that. The ideas for their lessons come from children's play, their comments, and questions that they generate. The adults' interests and passions, things, events, and people in the environment, people that are relevant to the environment, developmental tasks, and family and cultural influences, which is a great thing. So some people don't do that. So what they do, they teach first and then they document it, which can be tricky because after you do it, you forget a lot of the things that you've done. So maybe you gotta find a way daily to document what you've done, because you have to have that. Because you gotta tell the parents, what do we learn? Now, where do the ideas for emergent curriculum come from? So it comes from that, the living together day to day. It comes from serendipity. That word is a fun word. Like, what just happens, right? Like, it comes from curriculum resource materials. It comes from values held for children's learning in school and the community. We know each community is different. Kids from different cultures have different, values, and they have different ways of doing things. So maybe emergent curriculum can be great. Maybe it is excellent. Maybe we should try it. Now, a few strategies for emergent curriculum. So if you go to pages 94, 95, go ahead and open your books to that page. On page 92, it will talk about something called webbing. And there's a visual about webbing. See that? It's talking about child development, curriculum, assessment, teaching philosophy, documentation, evaluation, individualization, reflection, communication, that comes all together. That's what we call webbing. So strategies for planning, you gotta put it all together into one thing, right? A lot of observation and reflection, as you can see on our PowerPoint, on our slide, and also provisioning in the environment, like knowing what you have around you. And then look at this big picture right here. On page 94, 95, you will see examples of a teacher's web to consider curriculum possibilities in exploration, the words, the wet and dry sand. So there's ways of thinking about wet and dry sand. So I say open your books there because you have a lot to look at. And then spend a minute or two looking at each one of them and how they think about exploring sand in dry and wet sand with a magnifying glass. See, my word was right here the whole time. So curriculum possibilities on top, and then at the bottom, a web to consider possible activities for kids. And then on page 95, it says a web to consider how potential learning might meet standards, which could be happening before or after the fact. So once you define what the kids are interested in, then you can kind of go through this process. If you're interested in doing this, I would love to see your lesson planning this way. Why not? That would be awesome, right? The reason why I don't take you through this process is because we don't have kids right now that we could be observing to actually create emergent curriculum. We don't have anything that could emerge from their learning because we don't have them with us. That's why we are doing a different approach, theme planning with standards. So that's one of the reasons why, right? And then it talks about too, right, like on page 97, talks about planning for emergent curriculum in primary classrooms. So how do you do that in primary classrooms? In a society that really talks about common core state standards, how can you do that? How can you have flexible planning? Do you need planning forms, like templates, right? All right. And then an example of developing an emerging web for you to look at. Just take a second. You can even pause your video if you would like. Look at those connections of art, math, and literacy. And what the teacher was thinking. If you need more time to look at this, pause your screen and just check it out. So integration of all content areas into one emerging theme. Now, changing the planning process, you can change your planning process at any time. You can change your thinking. You can change anything if you think that the kids need to experience something different, right? It's not set in stone, so you can just change it up. So first thing is listen to the children, see what they are into. Find themes from events in their lives that are relevant to them. Leave the end of the theme open in terms of time frame. Maybe you can go longer than 4 weeks or 3 weeks. See where it takes you. Maybe you can do a blend of planned curriculum and then do an emergent curriculum ending there. See where it takes you, right? An example would be you're studying animals around the world, and then by the end of your unit, students start getting really excited about dinosaurs because they're making connections between animals and then animals that got extinct. And then that takes you to a different unit Does that make sense? Something like that. And then number 4, notice how children use materials in various areas of the room. They will tell you when they are ready for more, or if the stuff that you have is either too easy or too difficult. You can learn how to change your planning process just by observing the students. All right, watch what developmental tasks they are practicing and their interests that can be extended in new directions. Maybe they're ready for more mathematical thinking. Maybe they're really enjoying that. Maybe they need to be sorting more shapes. Maybe they need more time for that, you know, for maybe sensory activities, right? Sensory and math together, or science and math together, maybe more STEM activities. And then 7, long-term projects or theme studies integrated with curriculum areas and objectives that may help teachers meet state curricula and learning standards while exploring topics of interest. So maybe think about like integrating curriculum areas that will help them explore topics of interest. And number 8, again, I'm gonna go back to that. Brainstorm and collaborate with another teacher or teachers. Big deal. Do that. You should not be doing all this thinking alone. All right? And to wrap up your homework, you're going to, number 1, if you haven't turned in your week 1 planning, do that as soon as you can. I think, again, the most important thing about planning your first week is to be very thoughtful about your goals on top. The very first part of the template is the goal, are the goals, right? That would be the goals on top. Those are gonna be, for each week, what the kids are gonna be focusing on learning. So you're gonna be really intentional about meeting those goals. And then of course, each part of your lesson plan will be very, very, you know, intentional and exciting and fun. Turn that in. Once you turn that in, then start thinking about the second week. What could they do next? It's still the same group of kids, and it's the following week. How can you make it fun for the parents? Did they enjoy the YouTube video that you sent home with them, the link that you sent home? Can you send maybe a list of books home with them? Write it down, write it on your week 2. Set the stage for, you know, a bigger project that you're thinking that they're gonna have by week 4. You know, start thinking about bigger plans. Think about something unique they could do. Can you add a field trip? Or maybe week 4, they're gonna have a field trip. Could you start planning it out? Could you start talking to the kids during circle time about it? Is there any steps that you need to take before week 4 for that field trip? They need to be starting right now. So think about it. You got this. You're awesome. Now, you're gonna create week 2 and turn it in this upcoming week. And then you're gonna read chapter 4. Now remember, each group will be presenting about a different approach of curriculum. So you are responsible for reading chapter 4, so you learn about all of them before class. So that when groups present, you have you know a little bit about each, and you know each one of them, and then you're an expert on the one that you researched about. Remember, you can use other resources, not only our book, to add to your presentation. So make it awesome, make it fun, add videos, add other resources, make it excellent. All right. Have a great week and see you soon. I hope you enjoyed today's class and have a wonderful week. See you soon. Bye-bye.